Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell, and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I am the owner of Maxwell's fitness programs, and I've been in business since 1994. The purpose of this podcast is to get to the real deal of what really works, and most importantly, why things work. Hence the name, There Is a Method to the Madness. Before I get started today, let me thank Jonathan and Lynn Gilden of the Gilden Group Realty Pros. They are committed to providing the highest level of customer service in home sales. Why don't you give them a shout and figure out what your home is worth? 386-451-2412. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to this. Coach Rob here to talk to you about some health and fitness things. That's always the objective of this podcast, is to kick around different ideas, help you get motivated, help you do what you need to do, help you try to get the roadblocks out of your way so we can all enjoy a healthy and active lifestyle. Only 25% of our country is doing it. 75% of our people in this country are not on a sustainable exercise program. And I actually think it's probably a little bit lower than that, but in any event, 75% people being inactive is simply not good enough, right? I mean, we want people to be more active. I want people to be more active because I know how beneficial it is for every walk of life. And I do think people know that. They just kind of get in their own way. So some of the things I talk about on this program are, they could be very technical if I get into the exercise physiology so people can understand some of the things that we want them to do, and they understand some of the science, because I think that can trigger some people into getting more motivated. For other people, they need a lot of the different tips. They need a little, steering, kind of behavior modification tips to help them get into it. So I try to handle it all, because ultimately my goal is to get more and more people out there exercising in the wellness lifestyle. So today I'm going to talk about one of those subjects, and I think it's very helpful. It's one that's been very helpful for me through the years, and it's an area I struggle with, and that is basically perfectionism, right? Thinking things have to be perfect. I do think that really gets in the way of many people trying to exercise. The classic paralysis of analysis, right? So we analyze so much and we think it's got to be so right, and then we just don't move. We don't do it. I heard on a podcast that I listened to the other day, I heard James Patterson, the great author, and I always liked him. His books are just good, easy reads that are definitely entertaining. And then he's written more serious topics. He wrote a book about kind of getting into a little bit of the Kennedy assassinations and stuff. So he definitely does nonfiction as well. He's got a new book out that looks interesting about being a father. So anyway, I've always admired his work, and I left the podcast admiring him even more because I learned about his work ethic when it comes to writing. And, he's a machine. I think he holds the record for most books out, most books on the New York Times bestseller and all that stuff. But that doesn't happen by accident. I learned about his style and his processes. And I found, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. One of the things he said was that perfection is actually the enemy of progress in many cases. And that's what inspired me to talk about that this week and talk about this today, because I just think that is so true. I mean, I've been doing this for over 31 years. And for some people, that's a non-issue. It's just not anything that comes up. The old perfection thing, how do I do this? How do I do this perfectly? How many minutes? Whatever. For some people, it doesn't come up. For some people, it's really just trying to get them going at all. And, like I said, that's fine. We have to be all things to all people in this industry and meet people where they are. and I think have a lot of experience personally and professionally to help people get where they need to get. But I would say that I don't want to say more people are perfectionistic in nature than, I don't know, but it's pretty even. But that's a tough one to help people with because I get it. Like, I can definitely have that black or white thinking, all in or all out thinking, so I can totally relate to it. And, I don't always do the best job myself of following the advice, but I definitely know how to give the advice. And I think that really helps. So I really want to talk about that and talk about where that comes up and then what do we do about it? Because we can learn about something, but if we don't have an active step, right, a game plan, then what good does learning do, really? So let me give you some for instances. So I was talking to somebody the other day and trying to help them figure out how to exercise. Like, that's a big part of what I do. I mean, I don't just sit in my gym and take people around a facility that I have set up for personal training. I mean, that's a big part of what I do. To me, that's, I don't know, I'd say the easy part when somebody's there. Another thing that I do, and I do it often and it's important, is just helping somebody get started on exercise. Like, what is it that's going to work for them? Because there is no perfect way. The first thing we have to understand, and that's where this is coming from, is trying to convince the person that, all of the information that they've been told is usually false. I mean, there's people out there selling something all the time, right? And I consider myself more in education. And sure, I sell personal training. I don't have to sell it very hard. I'm full and all that. But of course, there's that side. But I'm not selling exercise. So I don't have an agenda. I just want people to figure out what works for them. I mean, we all need to meet the health and fitness guidelines. We need a semblance of cardiorespiratory exercise. We need strength training. We need mobility and flexibility. I mean, that's a given. But how we find that, there is no perfect way. And if you've got people out there, saying that, only strength machines is the way to do it. And not only that, let me take it even further. Only strength training. So you get people out there now that are purists, black or whiters. And you know what? I don't even think that's a personality characteristic. I just think that's salesmanship. There are people out there that are telling other people, oh, don't do cardio. That's just going to slow down your metabolism. It's just going to beat up your joints. It's not going to create as much EPOC, which stands for excess post-oxygen consumption, or burn more calories when you're finished, Only strength training is going to do that. So they're selling this, perfect way to exercise, and in their opinion is strength training. Then you have others, I would say less common these days, but maybe in the past, that it was the opposite. It was, no, don't do strength training. That's just going to hurt you, which drives me nuts because it's not true. You need to do cardio. And then you'll have your people that maybe are yoga purists, and that's fine if that works for them, or Pilates, and they'll say, well, no, this is the way that we need to go, and it's the only way everybody needs to go. And nobody in that instance is correct. Any of those groups, none of them are correct. You got to find your own way, understanding that to be as healthy and fit as we can be, we need to have a fit cardiovascular system. We need to have a strong skeleton, which comes from strength training, and we need to have a mobile skeleton, which comes from flexibility and, those other things, Pilates, yoga, a lot of different things. So there isn't a perfect way. So when I sat down and met with this person about, they want to start exercising, like they know it's going to make them feel better. They know it, like they know just getting their heart rate up and moving and burning calories and getting active is going to help them. But they were like kind of lost, like they've heard so much crap. And, I said, well, what about this? What about this? Well, I don't really like that. I said, okay. I don't want to go to gyms. I just don't want to go to gyms. I don't like it in there. I don't like people staring at me when I exercise. All right. I'm like, well, why do you feel like you need to go to a gym? Well, I don't really, but just putting that out there. I said, you don't have to go to a gym. So we kind of landed on running might be good for them. So I said, yeah, you ever thought about running? And they said, I have, and I don't mind it. I mean, I kind of like it. I thought I could do it. It's something I can do from my house. I've done a little bit of it in the past. It seems like something I can do. And I'm waiting for the big but, and then it comes in. But I don't have time to do this and this in 30 minutes or 4 miles. And I'm like, start at 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Is that enough? I'm like, of course it's enough. If you've been doing 0, then it's 10 more minutes than 0 minutes. Of course it's enough. And I'm not saying this person was thinking with a perfectionistic viewpoint, because they actually weren't. They were very open-minded and said, oh, okay, yeah, I think I could start with that. And, they're going to start with that. I bring this up because some people, I've had that conversation more times than I can count, have said, oh, come on, what's 10 minutes going to do? That's not enough. I thought I was supposed to do at least 20 minutes per time, or I thought I'm supposed to do 150 minutes per week at a minimum, So if I do 10 minutes 5 times a week, that's only 50 minutes. I'm not getting it done, ... right? All this, it's got to be perfect, instead of progress. And I always tell them, I'm like, okay, sure, those recommendations are out there, but something is better than nothing. And if you start the habit, you don't know where that's going to grow to. You don't have to be in your perfect, ideal workout program from the get-go. You can build into it. And as you're building, you are getting the benefits. Like, it's the perfect time. Like, when you are starting out, like, everything works. It's like awesome. If you're starting back, everything works. It's awesome. When you are like pretty peaked out, like you've been training consistently for years and you've been doing your cardio, you've been doing your strength training, you're not going to get much better. I mean, you have peaked, and that's okay. I also have to work with people on that one too. The old people that are like, hate the fact that they've hit maintenance. I'm like, it's really not a bad thing, but that's a whole nother ball game right there. But when you're starting out, you are making progress at that 10 minutes. Like, you're going to notice a difference. You go for a run for 10 minutes, maybe most of the week or whatever. By the end of the week, you're like, man, I have more energy. Maybe I dropped a pound, regardless of what the person's goals are. I feel more energetic. I'm feeling good about myself because it's a win. If you go out and do something good for yourself, you think of it as a win because it is a win. And it's progress, not perfection. So for people that are open-minded and don't think that way, it's kind of a no-brainer, and it gets them into understanding starting is the hardest part for everybody. It really, really is. But for people that tend to be perfectionists, it's tough because they don't get that. Like, there's just something in them.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 5-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
That won't let them do, say, the minimal. I just threw 10 minutes out there. Hell, it could be 5 minutes. It could be, when you're walking your dog, the last block, run in. I mean, it's all progress. It's just about getting better from where you are. Make today slightly better than yesterday. There's absolutely no perfection. And I promise you, with all the years I've been doing this, perfection is one of the things that drives people out of an exercise program. And I mean even people who are pretty well established in it. All right, so let's move on to where this gets in the way with strength training. I probably see it, I see it even more in the strength training realm. The old, it's got to be perfect or I'm not going to do it. So to begin with, you get your opinions again out there. You know, the guy that says, oh, if you really want the best beach body in the world, you're going to have to do a split routine, training 5 days per week, splitting up your muscle groups, spending about 45 minutes in the gym on your strength training alone, 5 days a week, plus your warm up, plus your cardio, blah, blah, blah. That's what it's going to take to have a body. All right. So we get that. We get the people out there that are pushing those kind of programs. And if you got a perfectionist that wants to start strength training because they know they need to, they know it's good for them, they're going to look at that and go, I don't have time for that. You know, I work for a living. I can't, you know. Well, number one, that's not true. That's somebody selling a program that is an inexperienced trainer or a clueless trainer or a clueless social media influencer telling you that that's what they do maybe, or that's what to do, but that's not true. If you worked with a true expert, a person with legitimate personal training certifications, or an exercise physiologist or a physical therapist or somebody like that, they're going to tell you, well, no, let's figure out where you are and let's build you a program. There's no truth to that, having to do all of that you just said. So, the perfectionist isn't even going to start if they hear all that. So that's one problem. And again, the solution to that is going to a true expert that can help them realize that that's not true. But then you also have the situation with the perfectionist that says that, let's say they're on their normal exercise program and they have every intention of going to the gym on a particular day. Maybe they're going to go after work, but they get behind and they normally do 10 exercises at the gym. They have their normal routine, but they got behind all day. The day got away from them. And so they're already thinking somewhere after lunchtime, like, I'm not going to have time to go to the gym, And if they're a perfectionist, they're going to go, I'm just not going to go because I don't have time to do my entire workout. So I'm not going to go. If it's not perfect, why go? And of course, you listening to this because it's not you. And when it's not personal, we tend to give the best advice, right? So we're probably thinking, well, just go and do something. And that is the answer. That is absolutely the answer. I mean, why not just go and do 5 exercises out of 10 or 3, convincing yourself, convincing people. My job, trying to convince people to understand that that is absolutely better than nothing. And it's really good. Missing the workout isn't good because what tends to happen is that snowballs and then momentum starts to happen. And then it's easier to miss the next time. So it's really better to go, all right, so the day got away from me. I normally do these 10 exercises. Well, I'm going to do 5 of them. And I'm going to feel really good about that. So my workout time is going to be cut in half. And I'm still going to be able to get home for dinner like normal. Well, there you go. And I promise you as an expert, if that's your new mindset, you are going to be more than happy with your results. Because what we don't want to happen is for you to drop out. Because if you drop out, you're done. And it is going to take a lot longer to get going. So we want to build momentum. So if we can go to the gym and crank out 5 exercises, maybe you do that for your entire week's worth of programming. Like maybe you just have a really crappy week. Maybe whatever your job is, you're just overloaded with work. And, for me to say, oh, don't worry about work. Well, that's totally being non-empathetic on my part and quite frankly, stupid because we are going to worry about work. We are going to do what we have to do. So instead, I'd rather be the true expert and coach and say, well, I promise you right now, if you just did a little bit, you're not going to lose any progress you've made and you're going to maintain momentum. That's the mentality that I would love to see people have. I don't remember who it was, but I was listening to somebody on a podcast a while back, and they knew that they struggled with getting their exercise in. Like they just, I mean, it's not that they hated it, but they just struggled like getting going and, building a habit. So it sounds kind of funny, but I love it. And so many people like won't do it because it's like not proper, so to say, but they put a couple different dumbbells out on their kitchen counter. I think they were like 10 pounders or 15 pounders. I don't know, 2 sets. And in the morning, as their coffee was perking, they literally did like, I don't know, I think they said it was like a minute's worth of exercise. And it was like, I don't even know what it was, maybe some squats and some curls with the dumbbells they had on the counter. But that's like what they did to get started. I think that eventually pushed them into a little bit more of a habit, or I should say a habit of doing a little bit more. But they did that for a while, and they talked about that positively. Like, what a great idea that they probably heard from somebody else, but what a great idea that was to build momentum. Like, they didn't feel like they had to make their workout perfect in the beginning. Like, here is the grand poobah of workouts, and it's going to be 30 minutes of full body strength training 3 times per week, and then the other 4 days per week, it's going to be 45 minutes of cardiorespiratory exercise. And on Sunday, it's going to be more of an active rest version of that. And after every workout, I'm going to do 10 minutes of stretching and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that sounds like a great routine. But if you think about that in the beginning and it overwhelms you, then don't think about that. Just start to think about building momentum. Like that person did, putting the dumbbells on the counter. I don't know that their spouse was overly thrilled. That's what made the story kind of funny when they told it. That's what I meant by proper. But they didn't care. They're like, look, I know as my coffee is perking, I'm going to have like not a lot to do. And I think they were kind of ADHD. So they didn't just want to stand there. They're like, sounds like a good time to do a couple exercises. And again, it worked. It was by far an imperfect program. It was just a couple exercises done for, I don't know, a minute. But it was great, and it built momentum. And eventually it worked into them continuing it, because when I heard them, they've been strength training now since that time, and that was years prior to that. So perfectionistic thinking is absolutely going to get in the way of progress. I mean, James Patterson is absolutely right. And I know he didn't come up with that, but he was talking about how in his world of writing that can get in the way. Like if he sits down and goes, I now have to write the perfect paragraph, he's screwed. I mean, I do some writing. I've written a couple books. I finished my 3rd manuscript. And again, I struggle with perfectionism for sure. And I have to follow these types of advice. So like for him, it was for me, the take-home message, because again, I like to write and I can get stuck, was when you are stuck in a paragraph thinking, is this perfect or not? Like, stop where you are and go into your next paragraph. Like, don't sit there and go through the battle. And I was like, that's very helpful. So there are ways for us to deal with that personality, because, if I do that too much, I'm not going to sit down in front of the computer and do it. And I don't want to do that because I want to write. And I do think I have contributions to give people in the health and fitness world. So I want to continue to do that. So I have to battle my tendency towards perfectionism. So we all do, and again, I started to say that he obviously didn't come up with that term. He was relating it in his life, because I know like in 12-step recovery programs, they talk about it all the time. They say, progress, not perfection, because addicts and alcoholics tend to be very, very, very black and white thinkers, and so, they're supposed to do, like, if they're new to recovery, 90 meetings in 90 days, it's like, okay, that sounds pretty tough, right? I mean, granted, they have to make it their priority, but what if they miss one? Well, if they're thinking perfectly, that's going to screw with their head. They got to say, no. That's an ideal, but I just need to be better. I used to go to no meetings. Now I'm getting to one almost every day. That's how we have to think to keep moving forward, because we need positive momentum. All right. So I hope these tools help you. And if they help you, please share them with other people. hit automatic download, share it to your social media, and do me a favor, at least send it to one person in a text or an email. Thank you for listening to today's show. I ask you to please follow this show on wherever you get your podcasts, and also please hit automatic downloads. It really helps me and it helps the show. Now I want to thank Overhead Door of Daytona Beach, the premier garage door company in Volusia County, with the best product, with the best service. I can vouch for Jeff and Zach Hawk, the owners. They are great people. If you need any help with your garage doors, give them a shout. 386-222-3165.